Come back and thank you very much indeed for joining us here on TV3 New Day. And I'd like to say a special thank you to Grant Power Clothing, Dan Suman, for my outfit this morning. Call him 020-985-5696. Again, 020-985-5696. If it is your birthday today, happy birthday to you. And a special one to a 40th birthday wish to Benjamin Quay, a.k.a. Bema, from all your friends from Collegono and Mamprobi. This is from Brenda Dugan. Bema, it's your birthday today. Happy birthday to you. And also to Ekia Asantua Letitia Hene, my mother-in-law. It's your birthday today. Happy birthday to you, Ekia Asantua of Brekum. We love and cherish you, and we pray that God will guide and protect you and also raise you to a different level. So happy birthday to you, Ekia Asantua Letitia Hene. It's your birthday today. Also a happy birthday to Samson Mensah and David Mensah, both of the Bible Believers Fellowship Tamam. Double blessings for you. This is from Komla Adum here at TV3. So that's your everything you desire as twins should be done for you. Well, I've been joined in studio by our long-lost friend, Lawyer Kingsley Amwakwaboidu, is joining us here. Council, good morning. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Great. Have your lights been going off as well?
Yes, but not that frequent. Not that frequent.
I see. Let's begin the conversation from the Labour Front. And Dr. Yao is the Secretary General of the Trades Union Congress. He had raised a question and suggesting that government should not allow workers to suffer alone. He wants their salaries indexed to the going rate of inflation. Take a listen to him.
We are all aware of the inflation, especially since last year. Look at what has happened to our exchange rate, the exchange rate of the city. Look at the increase in salary that we got last year. These three, inflation, exchange rate, and the low rate of pay increase, have combined to really rip us of all what we have gained in the last several years. And this is the time to address that. We expect government to do what governments do. If there is inflation, what should government do? Government should protect income by indexing our salaries to the inflation. If that doesn't happen, we should make it happen. What should the employers do? They should index our pay to the inflation, because employers, they change the prices of their goods. So the effects of inflation doesn't affect them the way it affects us. Therefore, we should get our salaries indexed. We will negotiate effectively this year. And that one, I want to assure you that I will lead that negotiation. But my advice to you, comrades, is that let us try to organize, because there are too many workers who are not covered by the union. We will continue to talk, we will continue to negotiate, we will continue to dialogue. But if the dialogue fails, we are going to embark on an industrial action that has never happened in this country before.
That's Dr. Yao. He is the boss of the TUC. Council, you heard him. He's already threatening that if you don't do something about it. And, for example, he mentions that in 2021, July 2021, when they were at the negotiation table looking at salaries and wages for 2021-2022 year, inflation then was about around 9% on the average. Now it's gone past 90% on the average. So he wants the indexing done properly. What do you say?
It's a dicey issue. It's a dicey issue in the sense that when you go to buy something, you feel the pinch, or you feel the effect of inflation, and you feel the inadequacies of your purchasing power, reference to how it used to be last year. So that's a given fact. There's no dispute about that. But then if you are also in government and you hold a government purse and you have a lot of projects, a lot of things that needs to be done, that the Constitution says do it, and you're not been able to meet it. The government says about 30% of its projects are stayed because there's no money for that. Then it becomes a thorny issue as to what to allow and what not to allow. And he uses the word negotiation, which I think is the appropriate way of going about things, because uneasy lies the head that wears the cap. You have to satisfy a lot of people within the context of what you have, and external issues, global war issues and all that. But the bottom line is that we must be able to go and buy something and be able to live within what we have. And so that is the balancing issue. Where I have issues with is that we will want it or else. That throws in the threat.
Right.
And we've already have some sections of the civil service, CLOCSA, going on strike. And if you see, that has not had the public blessing, because even the basis for that, people are questioning it, was the legality of that. The Constitution or the law says you should abstain from politics. Why are you asking us to give you money for abstaining? Because you are meant to be doing what you are doing.
Right, neutrality allowance.
Precisely. So there are a lot of issues, and I think when we start by threatening, then we
it appears that's the only language that governments understand, because they go into negotiations. For example, UTAG, they've gone into negotiations with government, and they have come to a certain agreement that government pays 50% of what is due them. The institutions cater for 50% of what's due them. I am aware the institutions are paying what's due them, but government has not paid months down the line. So perhaps the threat is what government understand, don't you think?
It's difficult to say that. It's difficult to say that because I have the revenues I'm generating are limited. All right, and so I have to, if you like, I wouldn't use the word rob, but I have to satisfy Peter and Paul at the same time, for want of a better expression. And that is that push and pull that the government engages in.
Right.
And so at times it comes across that you have to probably go on strike before they listen to you, which doesn't sound right. But it boils down to negotiation and the appropriate way of negotiating so you get what you want, so that the rest of governmental projects must also or would also go ahead.
Well, but the TUC, for example, some figures that they churned out, they're talking about water that has gone up by 27%, oil gone up by 25%, oil and fats on the markets 28.2%, fruits and nuts gone up by 22.1%, soft drinks 20.5%, live animals and meats 20.2%. And they say all of these things, you know, are digging too deep into their pockets. Can we, for example, suggest to government to meet them halfway?
Halfway in terms of because of my life choices, because I choose to eat poultry instead of something else, and so the government must pay half of that. I think that argument probably will not solve an immediate problem where they don't go on strike. And you see, the civil service, for instance, is a machine around which governmental projects. So if they go on strike, it hits the government very hard. You see, so you may solve an immediate problem, but can we sustain that? That becomes the issue.
See, Seth Abloso is joining us on the phone line. He's the acting executive director of Labour Policy International. Good morning to you, sir. Thanks for your time. Now, I'm sure you heard the TUC. Ms. Abloso, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, so the TUC is raising red flags. They're asking government to index their salaries with the going rate of inflation in the country. They say by July 2021, when they sat at the negotiation table for the salaries of 2021 and 2022, inflation was averaged around 9%. Now it is 19.6% on the average. And they want government to raise their salaries to reflect the present inflation rate. As a labor expert, what do you think?
Thank you. That call is in order. That call is in order. Times are hard. Salaries are not. Workers cannot make ends meet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that this situation is addressed. But you see, the presidential committee on emoluments, the report of the presidential committee on emoluments, made a perfect case for dealing with salaries in the public sector. It in fact asked government in 2020 to take urgent steps to deal with the disparities in the public sector.
Mr. Blosso, your line is not clear. It's cracking. If you could kindly readjust yourself, that would be fine.
The TUC did not use this to back improvement of emoluments in the public sector.
Hello, sir. Well,
Yes.
you would have to raise Mr. Blosso for me again. I think that the line is not favoring him. But he's touched on a certain council. He's talking about the fact that we say there's no money. We say we cannot give workers what they're asking for. But he raises the question of ex-gratia, for example, which has been approved, and you should see the figures. Recently, there was news about some allowances that bosses of state-owned enterprises are taking, even though they are declaring losses. And there's grave concern within the public space. Is it not then a justifiable position that if you're asking me to sacrifice because we don't have enough, I should see you also to be sacrificing?
I agree with that. I agree with that. It has to be a holistic discussion. For instance, you made reference to some of the state-owned enterprises which are not making profit.
Right.
Some of them are not making profit because their services they're providing for the price are determined. So, for instance, if you're providing water, the price of water to some of the communities are determined by the PURC. And so probably if it was providing that at a commercial rate, they probably would have made money, probably. So we cannot say because they are not making profit, they should not earn that much. But then again, you need to justify why you should be paid, all right? And then it should cut across. And so I agree with the position that we should review all those allowances and salaries and make sure that it cuts across. Otherwise, today you are solving CLOSAC's problem, you're trying to solve CLOSAC's problem. Another unit of a public service will come out and another. And then that was the reason why we brought in the single spine, for instance. And it means that we haven't really dealt with disparities between salaries. So we should have a proper look at the holistic look at that and solve it.
But for example, this neutrality allowance, I mean, the name has been problematic. That schools have thought that government perhaps threw out that neutrality allowance nomenclature to, if you will, court public disaffection for the workers. Because this is something that they agreed with CLOSAC in January. If the government, and COVID-19 has been with us since year 2020, so government understands the situation we're in. If they weren't capable or able to pay, why did they commit to that first?
In a way, I would fault the government on that because if you listen to the Deputy Finance Minister, they agreed to that in January. Then in February, they reviewed the budget.
Right.
And it wasn't captured. I think there was some lapse in that sense. All right. But let's not discuss that in the sense of they want, and so they must have. Let's discuss that in a sense that this is the government's basket. What can it be used for within the interim?
But you side with them.
So that if it does something and it goes forward, it can be sustained. Remember that the salaries and allowances, they don't ever scale down. So it should be something that can be sustained over a period of time.
But there were considerations and acceptance.
Precisely.
So,
Precisely. But
so
then,
we have a contract. We have a deal.
No, you cannot have.
You have a deal with government.
We have a
Government came
deal,
to the
yes,
table.
but you cannot have talk about that in the sense of a contract. All right. Yeah, because then all the elements are not there.
I'll come,
We have
I'll
an
come,
agreement,
I'll
but-
come,
but-
I'll come back to you. Sorry about that. Let's connect with Seth because his line is better now. Seth Ablo, so is the acting executive director of the Labour Policy International. Good morning to you and thank you one more time for your time.
Thank you for having me.
So you were suggesting that the issues of ex gratia, for example, which has recently been approved, is enough reason for the workers to also exact their pound of flesh. Is that it? Hello, sir.
In all this, workers need to negotiate. Hello?
Yes, you're live on air, sir.
Workers need to negotiate. But a case was made authoritatively by the Professor Yantia Mwabedu Committee on emolument in its report in June 2020. When you check the executive summary, it urged government to spare no effort at reducing the wide gap between the highest and the lowest paid public servants in the country. And he went on to say that the goal must be that salary earned by every worker should enable him or her to live in dignity. That is the crux of the matter. Every salary you earn should enable you to live in dignity. Because you see, if you look back at the NPP's 2016 manifesto, it promised a living wage for this country, for workers.
Right.
A living wage. And the living wage is more improved than a minimum wage. But government has not addressed the situation of not honoring that promise. And you see, when you have a manifesto and you are elected into office, that manifesto becomes a covenant between you and the people. So one will ask, where is the living wage? But to report in 2020, I'm sad to observe that as far back as 2020, June 2020, such a strong recommendation has been made to government. And nothing has been done about it. Nothing whatsoever. And Labour knows about this. Organized Labour knows about this recommendation. One would ask, what have they done about it? So now if they are looking at, fine. But we need to have constructive engagement in these matters.
There's a school of thought that suggests that we should rather look at a holistic solution, not the piecemeal approach, knee-jerk reactions. Institution A or Unit A goes on strike, we put them in a room and we agree something with them, and then another arm of the labor front goes out on strike, and then we keep engaging them and agreeing to a piecemeal solution. What do you say to that?
Oh yes, there's the need for a wholesale consideration of emoluments, salaries and emoluments generally in this country. And this is what the Professor Yantia Mwabedu Committee recommended and strongly urged government to address that, to end the yawning gap between the lowest paid and the highest paid public servants in the country. But anything like that. So that is why we are having recurrent agitations for improvement in emoluments generally.
Is it your view, sir, that the government is doing what is right in the eyes of the workers in order to win their trust? Because they have raised questions about the fact that if you say there's no money, some have said the president is still flying his private jets. Some are saying that state institutions are declaring losses, yet their bosses are getting all the allowances and all the perks that come with their offices, with their fat salaries. they're suggesting that the government keeps appointing new people and adding on to the public purse, spend. And they are saying that if you want to win our trust, you need to cut down on your taste and fit into our present situation. Do you agree?
Yes, clearly, you see, government hasn't shown that there is no money because the allocation to the presidency has been increased in this year's budget, has been increased astronomically. And we see, all that we see shows a very disproportionate allocation of the nation's resources among working people. And you know, the president is the number one public servant in this country.
Right.
Number one public servant. The committee has urged government to end the ritual of every 3 years or so appointing a committee to look at how to pay the president and others three years back, so that the president will have an annual salary in this country. I was expecting that with the 2020 recommendation, we would have had an annual salary determined for the president and others, like members of parliament, and not wait until the last year of their tenure, how much they should have been paid 3 years back. It's not healthy for this economy.
Is it your view that the single span salary structure or pay policy has achieved its purpose? Because that was supposed to bring some level of equity into the system. Has it achieved that?
Come again, please.
The single span salary structure, it was supposed to have brought some equity into the system. Has it achieved that?
We haven't achieved that because, in fact, if we're dealing appropriately with the single span salary structure, there should have been a place for Article 71 office holders. Then we have really maintained.
Okay.
But as it stands now, everything has been thrown out of gear. And we need to look at it again because the single span salaries policy had a lot of good for public sector administration.
Mr. Abloso, I'll let you go, but before then, I'll ask you, there are more than 6 strikes hanging on the government's neck already. Some others are threatening within their quarters that they will also come and get their pound of flesh if CLOSAG, TUC, etc. are giving what they are due. What should government do or think about now going forward?
The solution to this constructive engagement, not strikes in my humble opinion. Constructive engagement to deal with these issues. But the government must give priority attention to these matters because workers are not working and living in dignity. The same applies to pensioners. It's a sad situation on the labor front. And persons are working for this country and they must be duly recognized while they are at work and when they are on retirement. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Seth Abloso. He is an acting executive director of the Labour Policy International. Grateful that we could have you here. Council, you heard him. This is the Labour expert speaking. He agrees with you to a large extent.
Yes. I also agree with him to a large extent. I think let's not hedge the need for enhanced emoluments on the fact that government has said this, or when they were in the position where they're about to come, they said this and that. Then it becomes too political. The fact of the matter is that when I go to buy something, I feel the pinch. So how do we solve that?
Right.
That's one. And two, let's not compartmentalize those who need, because when you solve this problem, this will come. And this person will say that you gave this percentage to this person, so you need to review mine, and it will be a never-ending thing.
That's right.
And then the moment the several parties that would have done it this way, done it that way, then it get lost in a political argument. But the bottom line is that the worker needs to live in some comfortable, must have some comfortable life. Now, if we say the word used was, I've forgotten the word used, that,
Equity?
no, not equity. So we said minimum wage.
Right.
And
Living
then-
wage.
Yeah, living wage. And then I think the
It says
word,
living wage is better than minimum wage.
precisely. But then there's another word used, you live in dignity.
That's right.
That becomes subjective.
How is that so?
That becomes subjective in the sense that my sense of what is dignified to me may be different from yours.
Right.
And it may not be in consonance with what we have, the revenue government has been able to generate. It's not in consonance with
So for example,
the percentage of the wage, you know, in reference to the revenue. We hear it's going beyond, is it 70% or
That's
so?
right.
Yeah, and so there are realistic issues we have to look at. But the fact that there are realistic issues to look at doesn't mean that I should suffer when I go and buy something. So we should have a comprehensive holistic sit down with the government.
Is that fuel prices have shot up. There's a windfall there. They are suggesting that it affects transport fares.
Yes.
And so if the person has to pick a trotro from Ahinsan to Ministries, their spend on transport has shot up. They're talking about water, that's gone up by 27%. They're talking about food, that has gone up as well. Fruits, nuts, all of those ones. These are basics that they need to live in dignity. Rent, of course, will also go up and all of that. And they're suggesting that ever since those things started going up, our salaries have remained the same. If we were able to afford them in the past, now we cannot afford it. So take a look at us.
Precisely. So that's a proper reference point. Minus the word dignity, because as dignity is
Subjective matter.
it's very subjective. Yeah, so let's remove the word dignity, because then we have insatiable needs, and our needs will always appreciate, and what was dignifying to me may not be dignifying to me next year. You see, but we're saying that these indices have shown that they are increments.
Right.
All right. And so my salary must also commensurably increase with that. That's a very perfect argument to be made.
Okay.
All right. But then again, we have to have a proper holistic discussion of that. So we don't need to repeat that cycle again. And if you're not careful, getting towards elections, there will be more of these, because then it becomes political.
The government has agreed to pay the neutrality allowance. Of course, the name will be changed. That's the suggestion we're getting as well. But they have agreed to pay the neutrality allowance in October.
Yes.
So they have thrown the ball ahead, maybe getting some breathing space now.
Yes.
But in October, when they come asking for their neutrality allowance, we'll be making same arguments that, look, we don't have money and you need to be reasonable and you need to look at... Is government entangling itself in a certain web? Because they have agreed to it. Agreed in January, reviewed in February, it did not capture it. People are asking for it in April.
yes.
You say, okay, wait, I agree with you. I pay in October. So there's May, June, July, August, September, October, fight starts again.
So, pay what in October?
The neutrality
Is
allowance.
it? Yes, but what percentage was it? What percentage is that?
They agree, I think 20% or so.
Yes, that's problematic for me. That's problematic. We can change the name, but the basics remains the same. What are you paying me for? Something I'm not supposed to be doing. It doesn't make sense. I don't think it makes sense. There should be, we'll go back to the same argument, there should be a whole, are we saying COLA, cost of living allowance? That would make sense. But to say neutrality and now change the name to another thing, which still means neutrality as the basics, there will be problems. There will be several other sectors who also come and say we are also not allowed.
Okay. To engage in politics.
Precisely.
So give us a neutrality
Precisely.
due.
And we'll call another name. So we should look at it, cost of living allowance, and look at it, COLA, and have a proper holistic discussion. Otherwise, come October, several others will join, because now we have agreed to it in principle, several others will join.
Exactly.
I think yes, the government may have postponed its payment. Probably within now and then, they'll have a holistic, that's my advice to have a holistic view of that and have a proper discussion on the topic. Otherwise, you're only postponing
the trouble.
Trouble, yes.
I hear you. Lawyer Kingsley Amakwa Boydu is my guest in studio. Earlier you heard Seth Abloso. He's executive director of the Labour Policy International. Lawyer Redu couldn't join us. We'll take a break. We'll return. We'll talk about whether or not COVID-19 funds or cash was blown on elections as alleged by former President John Dramani Mahama. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Yes. What do you do?
I run a sole proprietorship providing assistance to the food industry. I'm into transportation and distribution of hygienically packaged dairy-based nutritional delicacies which provide refreshment to Indians from all socio-economic and age groups. The transport I provide is eco-friendly with zero gas emission as it runs on human energy.
What's on yogurt?
Pa.
Shine your hustle every day with the goodness of Fan Yogurt. So cool, so good. This advertisement is FDA approved.
Around 2019 December, Dad passed on at the hospital. I was really confused as to what to do.
I was told to report back the next day to give my statement. After all that was done, they finished, they called me that it was ready. I went in for it and I took it to my insurance company.
I had a call from the insurance office. They then told me that they've gotten all the documents and they will get back to me. Within two to 4 days, I had my money.
My name is Micah Teria Fenny.
Hi, my name is Edmond Nakao.
Hello, I am Veratan Saki.
Assurance pays. Notify, submit, and get paid.
For generations, Ghanaians have had one thing in common, and that's the way we start our day. Wherever your day will take you, start with the energy from Cadbury Rich Cocoa, made from the finest Ghanaian cocoa.
This advert is FDA approved.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below 18 years. Gambling can be addictive.
The 2022 edition of 3FM's Tour de Ghana is here. This will be another assembly of great cyclists in and around Ghana. We'll bring you a double dose. 2 days of unstoppable cycling will begin on Saturday, April 30th, from Central University through Adan, Sogakope, Adidome, before a temporary stop in Ho. That is a staggering 155 kilometers. On Sunday, May 1st, the race resumes from Ho through Atimpoku, Somenya, Dodoa, Oyibi, and then to Valley View University. That adds another 134 kilometers, totaling 289 kilometers. Registration has begun and ends on April 27th. Remember, there will be no registration on the day of events, and cycling teams must register together. Registration fee is 150 Ghana cedis only. To register, call 055 00 52 927. 3FM Tour to Ghana. Let's find Ghana's fastest cyclist.
Tour to Ghana is brought to you by Super Yogo, King Legend Energy Drink, Oba Evaporated Milk, Kale Charcoal, Vena Mineral Water, Investcorp Prudential Life, Lonat, Regiman.
The pandemic has had a generally deleterious effect on the economy of African nations, but some countries have ridden the wave more successfully than others based on the resilience of their economies, discipline, and prudent use of their resource envelopes in the period of this crisis. In my country, Ghana, our economy has emerged in extremely poor shape from the COVID experience. A ballooning deficit, double-digit inflation, a nose-diving currency, increasing debt distress are some of the symptoms of a very ill economy. Ghana's case was easy to predict with the cavalier handling of the economy by the current administration, unbridled borrowing from the capital markets, creative misstatements of budget deficits and other critical fiscal figures were certain to come to a head eventually. Ghana went into the pandemic without adequate buffers and has emerged with a terribly battered economy. To make matters worse, a pandemic windfall of in excess of 33 billion Ghana cedis, which could have cushioned the economy, remains unaudited and is believed to have been used largely in the quest to win election 2020 at all costs. The pandemic has laid bare, once again, the inherent weakness in our public health delivery systems and our social welfare systems.
Okay, so that's H.E. John Dramani Mahama, is Ghana's former president, speaking outside the shores of the country. We have on the phone line lawyer Boabin Asamoah. He is the National Communications Director of the New Patriotic Party, which is in government now. Council, good morning and thank you very much for your time.
Good morning.
So I'm sure you heard President Mahama. He's been saying that our economy was in a bad way. It was terrible. We didn't have buffers. We were hit like a thunderbolt. And most importantly, we have mismanaged the windfall of 33 billion Ghana cedis, which could have been used to cushion the people, and that still remains unaudited. What do you say?
He has the right to say anything he desires, except that he has to be truthful to the facts. Of course, as seeking his party's mandate to lead it again for a third time, which has been attacked as a futile exercise for retention of power by them, he needs to be able to hang his campaign, his quotes, on something. And he thinks disparaging the government in international circles and locally is the way to go. But clearly, every time, even with COVID, he acknowledges that COVID has been a problem for Africa, for smaller economies, as confirmed by the World Bank that he believes so much in, the IMF as well, that he relies on so much for his economic management. He alone, after acknowledging the international situation with COVID, comes back to Ghana and tries to create a different impression, as if COVID never happened in Ghana, as if the Russia and Ukraine war is not relevant in Ghana. And therefore, for John Mahama to struggle, to try and pretend that the three scourges of the pandemic, rampaging pandemic, which the effects of which are still with us, including the fast rising inflation in terms of prices of essential commodities, food and energy prices, as well as the Ukraine war, which is creating even more difficult issues to do with supply chains in those vital commodities. For him to pretend that those things are not happening to Ghana, and that whatever is happening in Ghana predated those issues, and therefore we must cut out that and look at near Ghanaian economy in isolation by itself. Clearly, it is disingenuous, it is not honest, and it defeats the purpose for which he's aiming at, which is to tag the government as mismanaging itself. The government hasn't mismanaged itself.
Sorry,
the government has not mismanaged itself.
Right. Is there a reason the 33 billion figure he's quoting has not been audited as yet? That's the claim he's making.
Why is he quoting 33 billion and insisting on quoting 33 billion? That's what I'm saying, that he's being mischievous and he's hanging his quote on something to create the impression that the Ghanaian economy has been mismanaged. It has not. The World Bank, the entire world, especially the rest of the world, lauded Ghana's management COVID were consistently mentioned in the top 6 countries as far as COVID performance is concerned. Our economy did not sink below 0. We were at 0.4 amongst the top 30 countries which were able to maintain positive growth in spite of COVID. Many, the rest of the world slipped below 0. Beyond that, you have a situation where the traditional instruments of economic management are literally under pressure. I mean, if President Mahama cares to know, and if you care to read and listen, the current instruments for managing economies, fiscal instruments, debt, everything is under pressure because of the pandemic, rising inflation, and the effects, supply chain.
And that's a thought he disagrees with. He says that the economy was already sinking before COVID-19 hit.
Let me land. Will you let me land?
I'm asking a question so that I'm providing further information.
Will you let me land? When he keeps talking about 33 billion, has he averted his mind to the economic management processes within that period when the supposed 33 billion is supposed to have come into the economy, including the measures the government took, the far-reaching measures to contain COVID, control COVID, the tracking, the facilities put in place, the utilities, the population.
Which facilities? Which facilities did you put in place? I want
a whole year of free electricity is not a facility.
But that has been challenged.
Water is not a facility.
Kojo Nkrumah, who is the information minister, said we are paying for it, and indeed we are paying for
government
it.
Debt,
how do you call that free?
We pay back government debt. The 3 billion will be paid for. Is it not part of government debt?
But we're paying for it. It's been deducted from our monies.
Is the 33 billion free money? Is it not going to be paid for?
So are you endorsing the 33 billion figure?
When he says his piece, yeah, but you have to take those measures at that time to protect the people. If the people get it free, it has to be paid for. Where does electricity come from? Is it not paid to be generated? You pay to generate electricity. Who told you that it can be given you free and it's free forever? Somebody has to pay for it. But it depends on the timing of your measures.
So then don't call it free, because if I buy something on credit and I'm paying for it later, it cannot be called free. If I buy something on credit and I pay for it later, you can't call it free. The shop owner cannot call it free. I cannot admit it as free as well.
Mr. Johnny Hughes? Is it Mr. Johnny Hughes?
Yes, your good friend.
Please, we are doing public policy here.
Right.
We are doing public policy here. If at a time you cannot afford to pay electricity, it is important that I give you electricity. At that time that I'm giving you the electricity and you are not paying for it, it is free. It is free. It's a deferred payment. It is free. But when I do my public finance, I have to account for it. And if it is loan-based, it comes to my debt. It's public financing. So what is your problem with that? Or you think that free electricity means that it doesn't happen in terms of public debt and public financing?
There's another.
It is public financing. When you build a school and you go in there, is it public financing or not? If you borrow money, does it not add to your debt in future? But are you not investing in social capital? So going forward, that same year, 2020, when that money is supposed to have been spent, we had a register written entirely new without the pressure of donor support. It's never happened in this country before. Never.
Well,
never. We had an election highly funded by the government. It's never happened before. Never. So, Mr. Hughes, the proper thing for the former president to do, aspiring candidate to do, is, if he wishes, scrutinize the Auditor General's reports. And if he wants to do positive advocacy, advocate in public for a special audit of the Auditor General within the rules, according to the law, in the Constitution, as we have it now.
Okay.
So that the Auditor General does his job, and we all are satisfied with it. This self-serving assumption, this self-serving way of trying to raise tension by pretending that Ghana is not part of the world in order to damn the government won't work. It is ingenious, it is not honest, and it does not fly. Because everybody knows that those scourges have impacted the Ghanaian economy. Only your mama doesn't know.
Okay.
Only John Mahama doesn't know that there was COVID in
Mr. Bobia Sama, so
COVID impacts the economy.
So
John Mahama doesn't know
I think that you have made this point more than 3 times already. That's fair. Now,
that Ukraine-Russia war is a problem in Ghana.
Okay.
Only he doesn't know.
Now, I think that you have raised this point, a couple of times. So maybe we'll go to the issues one after the other. Another issue that he raised was the fact that COVID-19 exposed our weak health system. You mentioned earlier that facilities had been put in place. Part of this was a promise to have Agenda 88, now it was Agenda 111, and people are asking questions. For example, COVID is still around the bend, and where are those facilities?
Johnny Hughes is asking questions. Johnny Hughes is a person, so Johnny Hughes doesn't have to pretend that people. It's Johnny Hughes asking questions, as he legitimately should. And the question has been answered by the president. The president says that upon being confronted by the scourge of COVID, that is when we realized the major gap in our social service by way of health. We found that we were not in a position to tackle the pandemic countrywide on a comprehensive basis. We were short of testing facilities, and therefore, to make it more effective, the president and the government invested in a massive, and I mean massive, recruitment of health sector personnel. Second, there was a massive investment in facilities for testing and facilities for tracking and tracing. There was massive investment in other facilities which were designed to support the containment of COVID. And part of that was the realization that we needed to put a hospital in every district, which didn't have one.
All right.
So the president says, I will develop hospitals in 88 districts, 3 psychiatric hospitals across the country, and other testing facilities across the country, including 6 regional hospitals for the new regions. That is a projection that originally he said would be delivered within a couple of years. But now he comes to tell us that financing, given the impact of the ongoing scourge and the supply chain disruptions, which means that there is still continuing uncertainty in international financial patterns, we are unable to complete those projects on time. But as we speak, take the TV3 team out there, talk to the ministry, all projects are ongoing, and go and film them yourself, because I'm aware that projects are ongoing across the country.
Okay.
There are projects ongoing. So satisfy yourself as a media person. Step out there and look at them. Don't listen to the propaganda from the political noise. Don't be swayed by that.
I hear you.
Step out there and look for yourself.
Don't you think, sir, because this is directly under the presidency, it would have done the party and the government a lot of good if you had provided regular updates at the Meet the Press series, for example, as has been done in other quarters?
So it's a gap that the opposition can exploit, but they know they can't because it is a fact that those projects are going on. So that is why I'm saying that we are in partnership. You are a media person. You are the fourth estate as established by the Constitution. When you have doubt, don't relax on the efficiency of the opposition only. Go down to the ground and satisfy yourself. You have every right to question the incumbent government, the appropriate sectoral ministry on what is happening. Not necessarily just engaging the political party.
I hear you.
All right, which is in charge. But you can always, just like you suggested, that the health ministry should be engaging regularly. I take that on board. You should also, as part of your qualitative journalism, because you have a slot where you come in and lambast government programs without confirming or denying what or not those.
And you haven't seen that I mentioned, for example, the Gushegu Hospital in Agenda 111. Mr. Bobia Sama, hold on. You haven't seen on Johnny's Bad, that's what you're referring to, that I had given an update on the Gushegu Government Hospital. I'm saying that if the government thought it worthy to campaign with Agenda 111, I think that his government should also be talking about the shotgun. You're telling us where the gun was fired.
I am saying that it's on the road. You can go out there, add another dimension to your journalism. Don't just depend on the government because the government will be speaking in a self-serving.
And Mr. Bobia Sama, I'm suggesting to you that on Johnny's Bite, I've spoken about the Gushegu Agenda 111 hospital. I saw the construction. I've seen it, the foundation. So you can't suggest that We don't do that. We do that already. But I'm saying that because you use it for election purposes, it also behoves on you to be accounting to the people.
Yes, and it is said that you confess now that it is happening.
But you need to account to the people. That's your job. That's your job as communications director, is that not? You campaign with it.
My brother, my job is cut out for me. But your job is also contributing to illuminate the state situation for everybody's benefit, objectively. Objective illumination is your job.
So my final question to you is that Mr. Mahama also suggests that there's not been discipline and prudent use of our resources. He mentions that we didn't have buffers and that the economy was terrible. He talks about excessive borrowing. He talks about inflation digits that have doubled. And he says that if the claim was that the economy was doing better before COVID, we should not have seen these indicators that you're asking him to measure the strength or growth of the economy with. What do you say to that, finally?
I'm saying that if he will care to look critically, the project he left at airport at 30%, Terminal 3, we completed it. It is debts. If he cares to look critically, the Kumasi Airport, the brand new terminal, is up there. International terminal has against the $29 million runway he purported to put in there. It is debts. The university in the eastern region, so much that he passed the law and didn't put down a brick for. We have raised and is now in action. It is debts. It is debt. The nearly 400 million euros that we have invested in the TVET sector to change the nation's skill mix and move our people, our young people, towards the new economy so that we can begin to participate effectively in value addition and retain jobs and forex in Ghana and even export for more forex is there. And most of those investments are debt. The water systems we are putting in, they are there and they are debt. The other day, the Vice President recounted over 117 contracts that have been projects for the benefit of Ghanaians across the social and economic side that we are taking loans for and are implementing for the benefit of the people on behalf of the people.
Okay.
All that is debt. So the question is, your mama, how are you going to finance development? That's what you should ask him.
Okay.
Is he going to continue with the debt or he's going to raise money from elsewhere that we don't know? Because if you go to the IMF as he plans to do, the IMF will not fund your capital projects. The IMF will not fund your ambulances. The IMF will not fund the recruitment of nurses. The IMF will not fund the recruitment of teachers. The IMF will not maintain energy stability as we have because they will not fund the cost of infrastructure to sustain the energy. All that we are doing, anything that we do in terms of infrastructure, ends up being debt because we don't generate enough.
And the consequences.
How he's going to fund infrastructure in the country.
And the consequences of that borrowing is on the future. So John, for example, says here, it says, using Mr. Boabia Samuel's logic, can I confidently say that the monies given to Ghana to fight this so-called COVID-19 is also free because at the time it was given to us, we didn't have it? That's what he's suggesting. What do you say? Is using your logic.
So COVID is so-called. Of course, it's not free money. By the time it was to us, it had all the concessionary and strategic needs of the international community embedded in it. The IMF and the World Bank responded quickly to the crisis, unlike the NDC, who put in place the technical.
So at the time we got it, was it free or not?
The IMF,
going by your water and electricity analysis. Sorry, sir.
They responded to the crisis of the time timelessly.
Sorry, Mr. Boabia Samuel.
You must be prepared to listen to the answers.
Sorry,
you can't have it all your way.
Sorry, YB. I'm asking you a question. You're drawing in. Sorry, YB. You're drawing. Sorry, YB. You're drawing in. Sorry, YB.
Your Mahama has no solution.
Sorry, YB. That's not the question I'm asking you.
No solution to our infrastructure challenge.
Sorry, YB. Sorry, YB.
And it is still damaging our economy.
Sorry, YB, but you are not answering the question. You are only drawing in John Mahama and NDC. The question is based on your principle and logic that because government gave us water and electricity at some point and we didn't have to pay for it immediately, then we can capture it or name it as free. John is also asking you that if he goes by that logic, then all the monies we got from IMF, World Bank, whatever it is at the time to fight COVID, which we didn't have to pay for immediately, would you consider those monies also as free? Has nothing to do with John Mahama or NDC.
It's warped logic that he's trying to impose on us. What about capitation grants? So if we borrow money to put in capitation grants, do we pay back? Don't we? And at the time we are giving the capitation grants, do we experience to pay it back? Don't we deduct it from tax and pay it later? It's warped logic.
I hear you.
From there. Listen, John Hughes.
Right.
We have a major challenge as a government and as a country. The challenge is how we fund our infrastructure to give it a base to leapfrog into the future. We do not generate enough internally to fund infrastructure across the social and economic divides. We don't. So we end up borrowing, including even for generation of water. We borrow to set up water systems, drinking water. We borrow to set up schools. We borrow to set up hospitals. We borrow to fund roads. Question is, how sustainable is that? We have come to the point where we realize it's not sustainable. So where do we go from there? No aspiring head of state will be credible in today's context if he only comes to complain and tell you what is wrong without telling you what he can do. John Mahama hasn't told us how he's going to fund infrastructure. We are in it. We are funding it. We have brought innovative measures. We have dealt with e-levy. We are engaging the international community. And the international community now realizes that the old instruments of raising interest rates, cutting back on social investment, don't work. Because if you are ballooning a deficit and you still have a pandemic which is attacking poor people, you still have to spend. So the old system of reining in public expenditure to control debt is thrown out of the window. How does John Mahama answer the situation of the pandemic, continuing fuel prices, energy prices rising?
So you want him to give you alternatives to the problems?
How does he do that?
Okay.
We are in it and we are doing it.
You are solving it.
They should stop complaining about what he pretends to assume, which is that COVID.
But the people say they can't see what you say you are solving.
And begin to tell us about what he will do, because COVID exists.
But why do you have 2 more years to go? The people say the solutions you are talking about, they are not seeing those solutions as tangible.
Our solutions are there because that is why the IMF and World Bank, which John Mahama believes in so much, have tabled us as one of the fastest growing economies, including Bloomberg. We are going to grow at nearly 5.8 percentage points, rebounding faster than many economies in the world after HIP. Unless you are telling me that those figures don't matter.
I hear you.
When it matters, we use them. But when it doesn't matter,
we don't use them.
It doesn't reflect in people's pockets. That's the next thing you are going to say. Then, if the economy wasn't resilient, if the economy wasn't strong fundamentally, we wouldn't be able to bounce back. That is why the lights are still on. We have such a powerful economy that we are able to keep energy supplies going and we keep your lights on. We are not let you use a generator to damage your business and to increase the cost of your business. We only are the lights on.
Why did my light went off yesterday? My light went off yesterday. My light went off yesterday, but we'll talk. Thank you very much for your time.
My light went off yesterday, not like the 5 years of John Mahama where it was on, off every day.
I hear you. I'll see you soon.
This is once in a while. That is why we are still keeping our children in school, paying for children to stay in school, paying teachers to teach them. That is why we are still laying asphalt across the country.
I hear you.
Because we have a resilient economy, and that economy is taking care of people.
Thank you very much indeed. Yababia Samoa is the National Communications Director of the NPP. YB, we'll meet around the bend. Enjoy yourself. We'll see you later. Council. In closing.
Yes, in closing, on this topic about the 33 billion and what President Mahama, or former President Mahama said, I have issues with the venue where he said it. I don't think that did any good to Ghana. Looking at those who listen to what the kinds of person were represented there. Then 2, he's a communicator, and so he prefixed it with we believe it was used to finance the elections.
Right.
And so you cannot, query him a lot on that because he says, we believe.
Okay.
And so it's just a conjecture. All right. But then the effect of that is that people will run with the fact that it was used for that. I would have
don't you
wished.
think it's the government's inability at this point to audit and account for the funds, which is what is bringing up this conjecture?
I think so. I think there has to be some form of audit, some form of accounting to the people what came in, because even the question of whether it was 33 billion has not been answered, right? And so what came in and what was it used for and how was it dispensed? I think that legitimately Ghanaians demand to know and require to know that. And whether or not some money was used to finance elections, I think that's a different topic altogether. We need, as a country, to determine how elections and political parties are funded, because we haven't answered that question. And that's a very deep question that needs to be answered.
I remember Dr. Belmea had said that we're not going to take any money from elsewhere. We're going to use homegrown cash to fund our elections. And in fact, he had also alluded to the fact that it was 100% funding from us.
I think the communication also made allusion to that. Yes, but let's deepen that discussion. That's a different topic altogether. Let's deepen that discussion so that we don't have others financing it and it becomes an investment where they tend to reap.
I hear you. Lawyer Kingsley Amoakwa Boadu has been my guest in studio. Thank you very much, Counsel.
Thank you very much.
Court this morning.
I have court, yes.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
And also, Lawyer Boabia Samwa joined us on the phone. He's the Communications Director of the NPP. And earlier, Seta Bloso is the Acting Executive Director of Labour Policy International. He joined us via phone as well. Thank you very much for your time and thanks for watching. Ambassador Sampiale says, what works have been done at the airport constitutes 70% of the work. We borrowed 2 billion recently. That's why there seems to be a bouncing back temporarily. That's for you, YB. Happy birthday to Hilary Dramina, staff at Perfect Gift Basket, from Ibrahim Salisu, lighting technician here at Media Channel. Also, a happy birthday to Ecclesiastes Ni Odenke Abe of St. Mark's School, Agege Dansoman. This from your dad, Simon Abekwe Abe, Ecclesiastes. Okay. Interesting name you have there. Happy birthday also to my mother-in-law, Letitia Santoa Hine of Brekom. It's your birthday today. Happy birthday. We love you so much. Also to you, Samson Mensah and David Mensah, both of the Bible Believers Fellowship in Tema. Double blessings, double favor, and everything you desire as twins. God bless you both as you chalk this milestone. Happy birthday. This from Komla Dub here at TV3. If it's your birthday as well, happy birthday to you. And last but not least, to Raymond Mamata and Delight Jansi of the EP students alumni from Komla and all the alumni members. We'll see you after the break. The sports and a conversation with Honorable Alex Segbefia, plus many other conversations. See you after the break.